a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone. Welcome to another of our podcasts with fundraising managers who love to run. And we are talking today with Kara on the south coast of England. Kara is going to tell us all about her running experiences and, really importantly, how she supports her runners. Kara, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Kara. I work as part of the events team at the Southern Hospice Group, and we are a group of 3 hospices across the south coast, including 1 children's hospice and 2 adult hospices. And as a group, we provide compassionate care and support to people with life-limiting conditions, as well as their families. It's an incredible organisation to be part of, and I'm really thankful to be here with you today. So I work within the events team. I manage our challenge events with a particular focus this year on runs. That means I support participants right from the beginning of their journey right until the end. And I'm also a runner myself. I am definitely at the beginning of my running journey. I started running consistently a couple of years ago after seeing my close friend run the London Marathon, and it was incredible. She did amazingly. And it spurred me on to kind of start my own running journey. And last year saw me take on the London Landmarks Half Marathon, which was my first race. And kind of ever since then, I've kept it up and hoping to get a few more under my belt.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your London Landmarks experience and what the course was like, the crowd, all that kind of thing.
It was incredible. I have to say, I don't have a whole lot of experience when it comes to races, but it was such an amazing day. And I tell all of our runners this that are taking part in that event this year. It was amazing. It was a great course. It was a great one to kind of start that journey off on. Flat, very flat, which was nice because I was kind of training in hillier areas. So it was quite nice to have that type of route. I don't think there was any kind of spot along the course that didn't have something going on. You turn a corner and there was a DJ or a rock choir, or kind of a dance troupe. It was such a brilliant day. Nice weather and it's such big crowds. It was great. Yeah, I definitely recommend that one for anyone who's kind of starting off and wants to start off on a high.
Great. And lots of charity cheer zones, of course. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today is, how you guys support your runners at events. Charity cheer zones are a really important part of it, aren't they? Why do you do charity cheer zones at your races? And why do you offer, the stewardship that you offer throughout?
Yeah. I think it's extremely important. Taking on a run or taking on any kind of challenge is a real physical and mental challenge in itself. And it is hard. It's, whether you're doing a 5K, 10K, half marathon or full marathon, it's a hard challenge. And I think we make that promise at the beginning, of the journey with our runners that we're going to support them right from the beginning, right to the end. And I think, those cheer stations at the end on the day are such a big part of that. We're there to kind of show them that we're really pleased and proud of everything that they're doing. And I think it's vital to have that awareness of the charity on the day and awareness that you've got people there supporting you.
Yeah, I think it's almost a bit of a thank you, isn't it, for everything that they've done.
Yeah.
You're there on the day thanking them. Let's talk a little bit about the sort of logistics of how that works then. Let's talk about your Brighton Half Marathon experience, which wasn't that long ago. You had a good-sized team. So tell us all about your team and also how far in advance you plan for that. What's it like the week before? What's it like on race day? Because obviously you don't just turn up just as they're about to go past. There's quite a lot to it. So just give us a bit of background on that race and all the timings.
Yeah, of course. So this year at Brighton Half Marathon, we were really lucky to have an incredible team of 86 runners taking part on behalf of our group, which was an amazing amount of people to have there. And it was a great day. It was a tough day. It was probably one of the wettest ones that I've done in a while. But I have to say, I didn't come across anyone on that day that didn't have a smile on their face. The atmosphere carried on throughout. So yeah, it's a kind of event day for us. We start planning that a couple of weeks in advance of the logistics of the day. We before that have to recruit for volunteers because we like our cheer stations to be kind of the loudest and proudest on the course, and we like people to know who we are. And so we recruit volunteers ahead of time, and we start thinking about where we want to be on the day. Those kind of things are thought a little bit kind of earlier in advance. We have to plan where our cheer station is going to be situated. We have to then communicate that to our runners so friends and family can find us. And a lot of kind of the thought that goes into that is thinking about the runners and thinking about where they're going to be on the course when they see us, so where it's likely their friends and family are going to be, so we can kind of fill the gap so that they see someone kind of every few miles for them. It's normally a very early start for us because of road closures, things like that, that you don't always think about. We have to make sure that we get down there bright and early. At not all events, you can't always secure a space. So at the Brighton Half this year, we position ourselves in the same place every year, but we do still have to get there early to make sure that no one kind of takes our spot. So we will take down our branding, we'll put up sail flags, we'll put up balloons and scrim, and make sure that our charity cheer zone is kind of as bright as possible, so people definitely see us as they run past. And then we welcome our volunteers a little bit later on in the morning. It's normally about an hour before the race starts, and we like them to get there so that they can settle in. We can give them some drinks, food, make sure that they're kind of prepared for their role. They know where the nearest toilets are, things like that. And then it's a case of kind of just cheering on our runners as they come past. It takes a team to make sure we spot everyone as they go past. So it's making sure that we see everyone, and we pride ourselves on always being there until the last person's gone past, and we won't pack down until that's happened.
Great. And did you find that a lot of the runners' families did join you at the cheer point?
Yeah, so we often see people drop in and drop out. I think one of the benefits of having a really strong cheer zone at events like this is it gives families a place to go and a place where they can see their runners, and their runners know where their family and friends will be. So we often have people that drop in to see them at the beginning of the race. And then they might move further up the course, or they drop by just to say, oh, my son or daughter is running for you, put a face to the name. But we do, yeah, I'd say a good amount, especially at bigger marathons, we do see a good amount of friends and family that stop by. And you will get strangers as well. You'll get strangers that not necessarily there supporting anyone, but they see us cheering and they see that we've got all the bits to cheer, and they come along, grab some pom-poms and get involved as well. So it's a great atmosphere.
Your point earlier about having to book a spot it's a really important one. And I think a lot of runners aren't aware of just how competitive it can be at times. And I think London Marathon obviously is the major case in point there. That for the runners is absolutely unbelievable, because you see all these charities all the way around, but you have no real idea as a runner what goes into actually securing those spots. You run over Tower Bridge, which is probably one of the most iconic charity cheer zones in the world, but that is quite something to get on there, isn't it? What sort of experiences have you had of booking places like that?
Yeah, I've had I've definitely had all the experience when it comes to kind of finding a spot at some of these bigger events. I think we're really lucky as a charity nowadays that a lot of events provide charity avenues, and you might get put into a ballot to get a place in a certain area. But as you said, the majority of the time you're kind of fighting for a spot. This year, we are hoping, well, we're aiming for a spot on Tower Bridge for our London Marathon runners, as well as a little bit later on in the course. And I've been part of kind of the process of securing a spot on Tower Bridge in the past. And it is, again, you've got to get up at the crack of dawn, and you've got to get there early. But my God, is it worth it?
Yeah.
It's such an incredible place to be, and it is competitive. And you'll meet the same people every year. You'll see the same kind of colleagues and things like that pop up at Tower Bridge every year, definitely. But it's well worth it, and it's a great atmosphere to be a part of. But yeah, definitely competitive, and I don't think people realize how early you do have to get up to secure a spot.
No, I mean, one year I wasn't running it, and I went just to see what it was like. I think I was there about 6:30 or something. And my God, I could not believe the level of activity. some charity people were going and grabbing a coffee or something, and then someone else was nicking their space while they'd gone. It was absolutely
Yeah.
remarkable. But obviously, for the charities, they need relatively high profile locations, because you want the runners to be able to see you. And in an event like that, it's very difficult to see all your runners, isn't it? What sort of feedback do you get from your runners about your attendance at events? Do you get the feedback that, yeah, it is really important and it is appreciated?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I've ever had negative feedback, if I'm honest, on that. We've only ever received kind of positive things. And most of the time, people are telling us that it's 100% worth it. It's worth being there. Um, for us as a charity, it's a chance to put faces to the names, to meet those runners and hear their story firsthand. But also, I think it's just runners love seeing that presence. And I think, as I said earlier, it really reinforces that promise of supporting them right from the beginning, right to the end. It's important to be there to give them motivation when they're struggling. When you're kind of towards the end of the race and you start thinking, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? And then you see the charity cheer point just in the distance, and it gives you that reminder of why you signed up in the first place. Um, I'm a big believer on the bigger presence you have on the day, the better experience you're providing. And it also raises charity awareness. It's mainly for the runner, but it's also to kind of get the awareness out there about the charity and who we are.
And do you do much at the end of the race? Do you do many sort of post-race receptions, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we try to provide something at the end of most of our events. As kind of the running boom has gone on, sometimes it's a little bit harder nowadays than it used to be. But the majority of the time, we try and have some sort of presence. We had at the Brighton Half Marathon, we had a charity cheer tent at the end of the event, which we offered drinks and snacks, and also had a volunteer masseuse who came down to give massages to our runners after the run. And again, that's a point of contact to say, oh, if you have friends and family that are coming and meeting you after the race, why not come and meet us at the same time, and you can all meet there together. It's good for getting to speak to those individuals and hearing their stories. And a marathon is a bit different because it's a big event. And we're really lucky that as we are part of Hospice UK network, we can kind of have access to their post-celebratory event. And we have some of our runners going there for food and drinks afterwards. But the majority of the time, we're trying to find somewhere, even if that's just a pub, for a meeting point, or just to be able to give some food or drinks or something to our runners at the end, just to say well done. We try our best to do what we can.
So your Brighton Marathon support then, will that be pretty similar to what you were doing with the half?
Yeah, so it's slightly different in that we won't have a post-event celebration at that one. We find a lot of kind of runners that are taking on marathons, they have a lot of friends and family that come down to visit. And we've found that the general consensus is that people want to go to the pub with their friends and family afterwards and kind of celebrate in that way, which is completely understandable. So this year we're having a couple more cheer points. So we're trying to make our presence on the course a little bit bigger because we won't have that post-event celebration. That we try to base it on the opinion of the runners taking part that year and what they would like. We try to have those conversations to speak to them as much as possible and see, if we did do that, would you want that? Do you think you'll come on the day?
Do you think that your running experiences have sort of shaped the support that you give your runners? I mean, when you were training for landmarks, did you subconsciously thinking, God, I could really do with some support at this point? When you were doing your long runs, did you think, God, yeah, at about the 8-9 mile mark, I really could do with some support?
Yeah, massively. I think I would actually say that experience has changed my whole role and changed the way that I kind of work and the way that I see my role. I was definitely kind of interested in challenge events before I did that, but it genuinely switched my perspective massively. It gave me the first-hand experience of what our runners go through, and it made me think about things that you don't necessarily think about, and giving them a little bit more motivation and pushing them when you might not have thought that they needed the push at that time in their journey. I think it's definitely shaped that. And I think it spurred me on to provide as much stewardship as possible and provide different avenues of stewardship as well. Because I know when I was running, I really struggled to fit my plan amongst work and things like that. And I think it's little things like that that you don't take into consideration unless you've done it. Is just meeting your runners wherever they're at and providing them with, you know, as many materials as possible so that they can fit it around their own lives. Not expecting too much as well, and not expecting them to reply to every email and to get involved in everything, but giving them the facilities and the materials so they can pick and choose whatever works for them.
Yeah, and I think the same applies with the fundraising, doesn't it? It's a tough one because training for an event is hard, fitting that in around everything, but add your fundraising in as well. And even if it is £300-400 for a half marathon, it's still got to be done. You've still got to get your page set up, and you've still got to go out to your friends and family, and it all takes time. So I think the fact that you've been there and had that experience. What were your sort of key parts of your fundraising for landmarks? How did you approach that? Was that social media? What did you do?
Yeah, I think the majority of my fundraising for landmarks was based on social media. Um, I was I was in quite a lucky position in that I hadn't really done too much fundraising before that, so I knew that this was the first ask that I was asking. But in the same with any fundraisers, I definitely felt that fear a little bit and a bit of the pressure of having that target against you. I approached it in that a lot of my fundraising was done on social media, but it did make me think about, what other ways would I approach it? And if I had a bigger target, how would I reach those? And I think, yeah, I think nowadays there's so many creative ideas of reaching your fundraising goal, but I think it's incredibly important to have that plan ahead of time. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of setting up their page a month before the event, when actually that's when you feel the pressure the most from the training, and all of those nerves start to creep in at that point. And we would always say, try and set up your fundraising page as early as possible, because it's one less thing to think about. And it's there in the background, and you can work on the fundraising gradually rather than trying to do it in one big go.
Yeah, so that gave you experience and a degree of empathy, I suppose, towards people that were going through the same thing that you were going through when you did landmarks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I had never had that experience of the fear of having to fundraise for a target. Um, and yeah, as you said, I think I suddenly realized it's a lot of pressure, and you can't always count on the things that you think will bring in the fundraising. I mean, there were certain things that I thought would definitely work, and they didn't always work. And I think it's just thinking about that ahead of time. And I know that from my own experience, I definitely think that maybe I should have been a bit earlier in setting up my fundraising page. And it's, as you said, it's definitely helped shape my kind of perspective on that, definitely.
And what about your Brighton Half Marathon runners this year? Any superstars in there, or any innovative approaches to fundraising that you've not seen before?
Oh my goodness. I mean, we had lots of superstars in that team. I have to say it was an incredible team of fundraisers. We had a very big corporate group that had a really big target, which did absolutely amazing. They smashed their target, and they did a lot of fundraising at their workplace, which was amazing. And we do have people do all sorts of things that pop up from time to time. I know that we've had a few concerts. We've had people put on um, small gigs in their local pubs and things like that. Um, and I think people are getting very creative with the way that they're fundraising. We're seeing a lot of people use social media in a different way rather than just sharing their story. We're seeing a lot of people setting up accounts, or Instagram accounts or TikTok accounts, and doing a bit of a kind of daily vlog on what they're getting up to in their journey, in their fundraising journey, and which is brilliant for us as well, because it means we can follow it too and we can see what they're up to. So I think fundraising is definitely evolving, and people are thinking of more creative ways to do that. I will say that as a team, they were all incredible, and we didn't have anyone that didn't smash their target. I mean, most people doubled it at least. So yeah, really, really lucky to have such an incredible team take part in that one.
I think the tools are there, aren't they, with social media and event organization? There's so many more things that you can do now. And you have to work a little bit harder as an individual fundraiser, don't you? It's not just a case of sharing a link on socials. Yeah, you can raise £100, £200 potentially doing that. But actually, if you use content creation properly, you can do some really exciting stuff. And so many people are doing nice, quirky little events, but even quizzes, they can raise. I saw somebody the other day raise £2,000 off a quiz, which is it's just brilliant. So it's almost like, that's going back a little bit to the old days where you saw people do lots of events, but there's stuff out there. So it doesn't have to be total slog. But as you said, the key is starting early, because you don't want to be doing this kind of stuff, particularly when you're coming into your long runs.
Yeah.
And you need this stuff gone early so you can focus then on your training, because you don't want double pressure, do you, when you get to this sort of stage? Now, that was really, really good, Kara. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what fundraising you put into place when you get your marathon place. Do you think if you don't get in through London, you might look at one of the others?
Yeah, I think I've told myself that next year is the year for a full marathon. So as with most people, I'll put my name in for the ballot for London. I'll apply for a few charity places. But I have said to myself, and I suppose this is me saying it out loud now as well, that if I don't get London, I think I probably will do Brighton, just to get it under my belt and say that I've done it.
Well, you wouldn't have too far to travel. That would be absolutely ideal, wouldn't it? Great stuff, right? Thanks so much for your time, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back, as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.